slides.
Recording in progress.
Welcome everyone to the September 24th full committee meeting for the Portland Committee on Community Engaged Policing. Next slide, just a reminder, this is a public meeting and it will be recorded, and just remember the Zoom chat transcript will also be recorded during this meeting. So let's go ahead and do some introductions. Start with PCCEP members. I'll pass to Tia first, and then Tia pass off from there.
Okay, my name is Tia Palafox. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm currently the co-chairperson for the Policy and Reform Subcommittee. I will pass it on to Viva.
Hi, Viva Campo, she, her pronouns. I am a member of the Community Engagement Subcommittee, and I will pass it to, I think I saw, Leslie.
Leslie, we cannot hear you.
Okay, you should hear me now. Okay. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Leslie Martinez. I'm a member of the Policy and Reform Subcommittee, and my pronouns are she, hers. I will pass it on to Gabby.
Thank you, Leslie. My name is Gabrielle Pochia. She, her pronouns. I'm not on any committee yet. And I'm sorry, let me go to the participant. I'm going to pass it to Kip. I know he's on.
Hi, Kip Silverman, he, him pronouns. I am co-chair of the Policy and Reform Subcommittee. And I see Conrad is up, I think, next.
Thanks, Kip. I'm Conrad Hewlin, he, him pronouns. I'm on the Policy and Reform Subcommittee. And I believe that rounds out. No, wait.
I think I just saw Carrie.
Yeah, Carrie, sorry. Turn it over to Carrie.
Hi, I'm so sorry I'm late. I joined the wrong meeting, the one for October. I was wondering why I wasn't starting. My name's Carrie Driver. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a PCCEP member. I guess we're at the end of the members.
Yes, I don't think Jorge has joined just yet, so we'll jump to Jorge when they join. Next, let's go ahead and move to Portland staff. Go ahead and come off mute and introduce yourselves in the space.
Elizabeth Perez, she, her. I work for the Public Safety Service area. Liz, you want to go next?
Yep. Liz Taylor, I'm the PCCEP program coordinator. Sarah, you want to go?
Good. Oh, sorry. Good evening, Mary Claire Buckley, Portland Police Bureau.
And Sarah Ames from the City Attorney. Pronouns.
And I'm Dave Jackson. I'm a captain with the Portland Police Bureau. I'm assigned to the training division.
Chris Griffin, representing the Chief's Office, Portland Police Bureau.
Thank you for coming.
Right on. And my name is Afrida Davis, and I'll be the facilitator of this meeting today. Can we go ahead and get the slides again? And just a reminder for our community members, please introduce yourselves in the chat. So a reminder of our community agreements. We agree in this space to listen actively and respectfully, share airtime, be present and open to new information and perspectives, assume positive intent, respect each other's, respect the group, speak your own truth, communicate directly, honestly, and respectfully, ask questions to clarify, call out bias and be okay with ambiguity. Okay. Just an overview of this meeting today. We'll jump into some short updates, and then we'll resume our work around the work around bylaws and put it to a vote. Then we will also be doing our interim full committee elections. So that would take place after that, and then we'll move to, then we'll wrap our meeting in open public comment. Next, let's move to updates. All right. Is it Kip? Were you gonna do this update, or who was doing this update?
I was not planning on it, but
Yeah. I think we were just announcing that it's on the website. So if people want to read through it.
Okay. So the response to the exculpatory evidence recommendation is on the website, and link has been dropped, it looks like. And so next slide. All right. Liz, I saw you come off mute.
Yeah, I can do this. So we have been conducting interviews as staff for new candidates for new members of PCCEP. So we're still working on our first round interviews, and then we have second round interviews scheduled mid-October with the mayor's office. So any application that is submitted by October 10th will be considered for first round interviews, and then we hope to get our council confirmation of members in November, hopefully December at the very latest, but yeah.
All right. And who has the update on the schedule?
I can take that one. So in October, we'll have one full committee meeting on October 22nd. We'll be prepping with the interim chairs for what that agenda will be. In November and December, we will hopefully have new members, get them appointed and get them onboarded. And then before the end of the year, we are hoping to get a meeting where Mayor Wilson will attend. And so we'll want to work with members on what the agenda should look like for that meeting.
Wonderful. Now let's jump into the work around the bylaws. So in this work around the bylaws, the process is we will resolve the quorum and voting sections. That's priority. We're going to revisit all the prior sections and resolve any remaining comments. And the final revisions and language can be completed by staff, and make sure that the notes reflect the intent in detail. And then we'll move to a vote, have public comment, and then round out our time with this section with the vote.
Okay, I'll get the bylaws pulled up. Just give me 1 second, y'all. Okay, does that look okay, or do I need to zoom in more? How is it looking on y'all's screen?
Yeah, could you zoom in some more?
Yeah. How's that?
Maybe a bit more.
Okay. Yeah?
A little more.
Woo!
There we go. I think that's.
I think it'll be fine because we're taking it section by section, so we don't need to see too much.
Yeah. Okay. So if we go down to, let's see what it was, quorum and voting, correct? Okay.
Right. So as we look at these comments, I also note that there was some discussion of, there's some needing some more discussion or open discussion around the voting aspect. And is that, am I remembering that correctly? See some nods? Yeah, yeah. Who would like to initiate the conversation around what needs to be settled in conversation?
I think I can kick it off since I proposed an adjustment to a quorum of 50% plus one. And Kip had a really good question on the term seated members. To clarify, that proposal was folks who have been, I forget the term, ratified by the city council.
Appointed, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, folks that have been appointed and approved by city council would be considered a seated member. So in this hypothetical, if there were only 10 people on the committee, the quorum so that we can continue on the good work would be 50% plus one, so 6. I did it with the intention to, give the body a lot of flexibility in times of dynamic change, such as the one we're in. Based off the previous conversation I shared with everybody, it doesn't seem like there's a real good consensus, and my interpretation from the body is that there's a greater it seems like folks want to keep this bylaw as it's currently written as 7 to have quorum regardless of how many people are on the committee actively. So I'm willing to take this off the table so we can get into other stuff.
I'd actually prefer you not do that. Are you done speaking or?
No, yeah, no, it's all you, Kip.
Okay, cool. I think I misunderstood the original intention. I want to make sure that if we only have 8 people currently and we need to have 7 people to approve something, we're creating a standard that might be impossible to achieve. Although most of our recommendations are generally voted unanimously or close to. We did recognize in some of our deliberations earlier that we need a way to capture also dissent, which I think solves one problem. But if we only have like 8 people available, then it should be 50% plus 1. If we have 7 people available, we'll figure that out because I'm not good at simple math. But I like your amendment because it allows us to move forward with at least a consistency on our process and not either making the approval process overburdensome, or my other fear was if it's just people present, then it could become the opposite problem, lack of legitimacy.
All right. Go ahead, Leslie.
I'm I'm a little confused now because that seems to me to be more about voting than quorum. And I thought we were talking about like quorum, like what does it mean to have, like what is our minimum for us to feel like we are able to do the work? So that if only like 3 are ratified or 4 people are ratified because everybody else left or something like that puts us in the position that you're describing of like inequality and stuff like that. So I think like there's a little bit of like confusion of what, for me, of like whether we're talking about quorum or whether we were talking about voting. Because with voting, I completely agree with you, but if you're talking about voting, but with quorum, I agree that we should keep it as is to make sure that we have, at least 7 members of the full committee so that we can move the work forward.
Go ahead, Conrad.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you separating that out, Leslie. This is I wrote it with the intention of quorum, of like for us to handle business. I was just trying to be perhaps a little too pragmatic and just recognizing that we're really close to 7 right now. And as I mentioned previously to everybody, with cold and flu season coming up, people's schedules, excused absences. I'm fine with leaving it at 7. I just wanted to go into the next couple months, like just recognizing that that means we probably will have several meetings where we won't have quorum. And if folks are okay with that, I'm also okay with that. I just, wanted to put that out there.
Go ahead, Viva.
I appreciate Leslie separating the two because, yeah, I think I was getting confused as well. So I want to just real quick before I ask my question, highlight Tia's comment that can we see the voting section and the quorum section at the same time? That might help on the screen as we're talking. And my question was specifically to Conrad or others as well, but focusing exclusively on the quorum to begin with. Can you explain, or do we recall what the resistance was to changing to what Conrad's suggesting? What was the counter thought in terms of why it might not be suggested?
Chip, do you have a response to that question, or?
Yeah, I mean, from so as it's stated currently in the quorum section, that we can still deliberate, have conversations, and hold meetings without quorum. But if we need to vote, we would need to have quorum to move something forward or to ratify something. That's why I kind of combined the two. I think if we make the bar too high when we are short 5 people, we won't be able to move anything forward or even meet or deliberate. So I get the separating the two, but I feel like we would need to be able to hold meetings regardless. People are sick, people have excused absences, and we're short 5 people, or I'm sorry, 6 people. If we have to have 7 people to hold a meeting, then it could again be a very difficult bar to meet, especially for subcommittees. Full committee has expectations, everybody shows up. Subcommittees is not the same case. So I think
But
it becomes more
it doesn't say we can't meet if we don't have quorum.
Can I clarify what my question? So Kip, I'm understanding what you're sounding is like you're in support of changing the quorum based on the points you just made. I'm trying to figure out what the counter is. It sounded like there was potentially some resistance. I'm not remembering the resistance. And so can we clarify why that might not be advisable or recommended? What is the counter thought to keeping it as is? It sounds like someone thought that. Who was it? What was the thought process behind it?
Yeah, well, initially both Kip and I brought that up, and that comes from the fact that, like, if you lower the quorum to just the seated members, there's a like right now that there's an obligation for the staff and everybody to get us to that like 13 member seated maximum. So we, as well, that number was established to represent a broad like the entire city, right? And if we're reducing the quorum so that it's a smaller number, or like, allowing the quorum to make decisions with a small number of people, then we're not really representing a variety of diverse viewpoints. And potentially there's some equity concerns because with that, like, the same people show up, people that have time, people that have like narrow, you're just not able to really represent a broad so like that's one of the main things, a broad like area. So that was one of the main things, and why I'm still in favor of keeping it at that higher, like at least half of what the committee is supposed to be.
So essentially it would be kind of like a quick fix versus problem solving the underlying issue of we don't have enough members. And so we're going to move forward as is versus focusing on we need to get our numbers back up.
Right. because we established that larger committee for a reason to be representative.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Go ahead, Carrie.
Thank you. I wanted to say that I'm totally torn because I see both points of view, and Leslie stated much more eloquently why I see the point of view of keeping the thing at 7. And I'm wondering if we could, it sounds complicated, but the biggest concern is if we aren't going to have new members for a long period of time because City Council won't be able to finalize the new members, then maybe we can have a clause that says, you know, if there's 5 months or whatever without more members, then the quorum can be 50% plus 1 or something like that. Because otherwise we might be stymied by the schedule of the city, even at the best efforts of people recruiting new members.
Go ahead, Kip.
Yeah, briefly, I think that was my biggest concern, is that if we can't make decisions and move things forward without a fully seated or near fully seated or confirmed committee, there's not a lot that we can actually accomplish. And we're also in a time period of we need to be present and available and moving things forward because the world around us is becoming pretty urgent, a lot of things. So, but the other point, sorry, in the back of my head, it's been a long day, is that my understanding of the other things we voted on and discussed should alleviate this problem going forward as far as managing problems and making sure people are involved and expectations are set. And I think the next thing we should do at some point is how do we expedite the interview and appointment confirmation process, but not in today's meeting, clearly. So I'm hoping going forward with the extra staff and everything else, this problem will no longer exist. But until we get to February, or hopefully sooner than that, but possibly February, we still might only be 6 or 7 people.
Yeah. To be respectful of the sheer volume of changes, I will officially rescind my recommendation. You know, in my experience on other boards and other groups, you know, if it's kind of a split, safest bet is to leave it as is. You know, it can always be re-examined. We can always come back to this. And I want to be really respectful of all the other thoughtful suggestions in the rest of what we need to get through.
Okay, so it looks like the language for the simple majority and quorum will revert back to the or greater number of seats, in parentheses 7. Okay. And if we can resolve that comment so we don't come back to it. Thank you. Okay. And so yeah, let's move down to the voting comment. Feels like quorum rules would impact the change and consider together. Is there anything more needs to be said here specifically to this comment?
Yes, because I don't think we actually, I think this was a comment that was proposed or a revision that was proposed, but I don't think we actually agreed to accept it. There hasn't been deliberation around that.
Okay.
It was proposed by Jorge.
I don't want to speak for Jorge, but my interpretation is he was intending to set the baseline expectation of when we talk about consensus to be specific that if everyone -2 agrees, then it is a consensus for us to move forward and keep things going. So, because it seems like right now we don't really all necessarily have the same understanding of what consensus is, if that's everyone explicitly or if that's everyone minus one person who may be differing. But that was my interpretation.
I have a slightly different interpretation. Because this is pertaining to the voting aspect of things. So previously, what was stricken out is that like if 7 members are at the meeting, like, the minimum that we can have, then we can vote on something. Well, I guess the original like language had us that like 4 had to agree because that's the simple majority. And this proposed change is that for something to be approved, 5 have to agree because it's the majority minus 2. So what it does is it kind of forces us to be in more consensus. Now there hasn't been an issue because a lot of stuff has gotten approved unanimously, but potentially, like let's say we have 10 members in total. Instead of needing 6 people to agree, we would need 8 people to agree to pass something like a recommendation. So it forces more agreement, and it makes it so that, potentially, so it just makes people need to agree at a higher consensus. Again, it hasn't really been an issue because mostly we approve things unanimously, but should there be dissenting votes, like that would impact us.
Others' thoughts on this one, this proposed change?
I guess the question is, do we want to keep it a simple majority or do we want to force a higher consensus? Pros and cons.
I feel like a simple majority will keep it much cleaner and easier to navigate. But I recognize the importance of dissent, and I still like the way that our former member, I can't remember his name right now, used to say decline. Like on a recommendation, everybody would be like approved by. They'd list the members, and then they'd say not approved by or whatever the wording was.
Right. For my part, I see the benefit of having a higher consensus forced because that means that when things go, like again, right now, there's a power in having things being approved unanimously, right? There's like everybody in the committee is in agreement. However, the other side to that is like, does it slow us down in decision making, which we already know it is a challenge. So those are the 2 things that I'm not sure myself. I'm just proposing those 2 like aspects.
Yeah, it feels like the question at hand now is like, where do you stand on it? Go ahead, Viva.
I was talking to Jorge about this last night, and I don't think there's harm or I don't view slowing down as a negative. I think sometimes, at least I can speak only to my personal experience. Well, I won't go too far into that. I think that further time to explore pros and cons to everything and have thoughtful discussions and really dig in is something that I look forward to. And I understand the critical nature of the work we're doing, and I know that there's a lot of emotional intensity to it. But I have experienced sometimes feeling not overt pressure from anyone, but I certainly have fallen in line and voted at times. And I quite honestly have kind of half-heartedly voted for things simply because I felt kind of pushed to do that. And so I would really appreciate the idea of that higher consensus, of us working a little bit harder to, not that people aren't working hard, but I would love kind of more thorough discussion, really pros and cons to all the recommendations or things that we're putting forth for a vote. And I like the idea of raising the higher consensus. And I don't think that will necessarily get backlogged. I mean, there's always too much work to do. That's certainly a reality. But I think that it makes us kind of be able to be a little bit more thoughtful, I think.
I'm wondering how we're going to resolve a vote on an issue about consensus.
A vote on voting.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kip.
Are we going to have a consensus to change our consensus, and what's the rules around it? You know, in the 2+ years, I guess, now that I've been on the committee, I felt things move at a reasonable pace. They're not particularly speedy as it is. I think part of our challenge is, again, that expectation setting on the process. There's a lot of review and deliberation and conversation that I haven't seen happening through the city tools that we have, and most of it seems to happen in the meetings, and we all have busy lives, so we can't always jump in. But I think part of our challenge has been not being as prepared as we could be to have fruitful conversations when we have to deliberate and change things. So I totally hear what you're saying, Viva. I don't want anything being rushed either, but I think we have challenges if we create new obstacles to moving forward, and without an assumption that everybody's doing all the work ahead of time also. So and it's still confusing to me exactly how it would be implemented effectively. So anyway, those are my thoughts, and they are confusing because it's a confusing approach.
Go ahead, Tia.
I just had a question. If in regards to higher consensus, do you feel like there wouldn't be as much as an opportunity to dissent if it was a higher consensus voting, or people feeling like there'd be more of an opportunity to dissent if it was a simple majority? That was confusing me. I feel like that was the biggest difference.
Yeah, does someone feel like they have the ability to answer Tia's question?
Yeah, I think I can try. So I guess it forces a higher consensus because it gives folks the power to slow things down if they feel comfortable. So like where a simple majority would be just like most of the members in the meeting vote to move something forward.
Right.
This would be like if 3 members disagree, then they can hold up the voting and hold up something moving forward until their grievances or their disagreement points are resolved, and then they will vote to move it forward. So that's how in practice it would be implemented to help slow things down and force more consensus.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, Gabby, I saw your hand up.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I guess I just want to point out that even this conversation is like slow moving, and anything that's going to take us even longer, like, I don't think we need that. And I'm not saying that we need that, but even this conversation is getting confusing for people, as you can see in the comments and the feedback that we're getting. So less difficult would be my vote.
Go ahead, Viva.
I was just going to reference, kind of speak to the comment about us having like a lot of discussion and then being, having a lot of time to prepare before we do vote. And I just want to remind kind of some of our intent and design of the subcommittees were for them to be autonomous. And so there is a lot of discussion that happens, I think, sometimes in the policy and reform subcommittee. But there is not an expectation that members be a part of both subcommittees. And then we also haven't defined the expectations for work and preparation outside of the meeting. So I think that sometimes if you're involved in a lot of the independent and outside work that's going into some of these recommendations, it can feel like you're talking about it a lot, or there's been a lot of discussion. But as someone who's not a part of the policy and reform subcommittee, I'm the engagement subcommittee, is you can read the recommendation beforehand, you can click on the links, but until you get into the actual dialogue, and that if that's only happening kind of in the designs for it to happen in the full committee, that's where I think there is some room for improvement. And I think some of the recommendations are pretty critical. So I just wanted to clarify those points, that I have a different experience on the amount of conversation that does actually go in before we put something to a vote.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kip.
Yeah, I'll make it brief. I totally agree with you. And that is why we've had some conversations over the last few months about how do we improve the processes of things moving out of committee, the communication out to everybody so that everybody's better informed. I think that's been a challenge I've had as well, right? Is like sometimes I'm hearing some conversations for the very first time. I have seen though that when people aren't feeling comfortable with things, being able to state so and feel safe doing so is really critical too. So that is probably a process we also need to put in there to make sure everybody feels heard and no one, like you mentioned before, Viva, no one feels rushed. So I think we have more work to do to make this better and equitable and more informed on top of the bylaws.
Go ahead, Conrad.
Thank you. Great discussion, everyone. I would just say, just trying to keep to my own internal standard that I set earlier. On principle, I love the idea advocated, Viva, Leslie, about instilling that greater dynamic of fruitful discussion. At this point, I would not. I guess if this comes to a vote, I would not be voting in this change. I think this is the kind of thing, if we take out a little bit of time moving forward to kind of flesh out and come back with something a little bit more prescribed and defined, to actually set in motion the vision you're talking about. I'm in alignment with the vision. I think the problem is we don't have Jorge here right now, and
He
I
is
think
now here.
Oh, he is? Oh,
Yeah.
perfect. Well, I was just going to say, without majorly overriding this, I think the default needs to go back to the bylaws as they are written.
Okay. Jorge, we see that you joined. I'm not sure if you're able to introduce yourself to the space. Okay. All right. If you can just introduce yourself to the chat. And we are just getting, it feels like towards the end of this comment here around the voting. And it sounds like Conrad's proposing that we stay where we're at as far as it's been written, and then revisit potentially making the adjustment later on. Are folks in support of Conrad's proposal?
Yes.
Offer to the space. Okay. So let's revert that back to what has been there.
And I
Alright.
think the slowing down of like that what we are trying to address could be more addressed, not necessarily in bylaws, but like maybe in like how we conduct work and making sure that there's like ample room for discussion. We provide, allow folks the time to digest things and give us the feedback.
Yeah. All right. Next set of comments to resolve. So done the quorum and the voting section. Now we're just revisiting all the prior sections. For this next one, underneath the decision-making public comment and public comment section. Yeah. Add dissent report. Let's see, and I could see 2 nods. Go ahead, Kip.
Yeah, how we discuss is I fully support having a process that allows a member to add reasoning on why they don't support something along with a recommendation or a vote. I think that'll help with the some of the challenges we've heard of people feeling heard and understood, and it also provides even in the interim process of things moving forward, it provides counterpoints to be able to work with. We also talked about obligatory dissent, and I'm not sure I feel like that's necessary, but I want to make sure there's a space for people to say, I don't agree with this because of these reasons.
Okay. And if I'm remembering correctly on this point, there's been several folks are in general in favor of adding this dissent report. So, yep, there we go. That's what I was going to suggest.
Cool. We should add that to our process for work that we do so that we can dial that in along with the other processes that we need to.
Right on. Okay.
Hi.
Go ahead, Sarah.
I believe the goal was to decide on the bylaws tonight, to actually take a vote and approve the revised bylaws. So I would recommend that you actually, instead of just note add language, just decide what that language might be so that you can approve these bylaws.
Yeah, is there a suggestion of how this might be the language around the dissent reports?
Personally, I like the way it is written.
I mean, that's super simple. And when I say process, it's not bylaw work, it's how do we go about implementing the bylaws? So making a distinction between the two. But yeah, I think this is perfect. It doesn't have to be complicated.
So what's offered is any member may add a dissent report to any recommendation. Any dissent from that recommendation? Okay.
In writing.
All right.
Yeah, I think it'd be published with the recommendation part of it.
Okay. Removal of members and resignations. Let's see, this first comment is links show in, there's an inactive link there. And then the next comment was, do we have a code of conduct resource to link here? Was that found?
I think that still needs to be done, but I mean, we don't have to spend time on that.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll make sure we add that in, for sure. So yeah.
Okay. And Tia had a comment here around, it was your understanding that the full committee meeting were required along with the subcommittees that you are a member of, and the other subcommittee meetings were optional. Can that be specified in this space?
She did add that.
All right,
So that's completed.
excellent. Resolved. Staff recommendation on notice, amount of time.
Yeah, Dory brought up, we referenced this in the last meeting, and I think she said something along the lines that she needed to give that thought. So I don't think that's resolved. I don't know that we need to do it today, but it's still hanging out.
Okay, and that's within a 12, can't see that next part, 12 months.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the comments,
Oh,
but maybe that's just me. I'll mess around with my screen, see if
okay.
what's going on here.
Yeah, the comments are on screen.
Sorry, real quick for the prior notice, and I can't find my hand raised button. Is that something that I think the request is coming from Dory to the members. So
It was, oh,
go ahead.
kind of. So we had requested Dory and like the team like let us know what they would think is reasonable in terms of, you know, like addressing this, because we didn't want to make a decision since they're, you know, without their input on what made sense.
All right, let me think on that one.
Okay. We'll keep that one there and we'll come back to it. Feels like it. The next comment with Viva, do we need to quantify how much notice? Maybe this not a thing.
I don't want to speak for Viva, but was that related?
It was like giving 2 weeks notice.
That's what I was referencing was, yeah, like prior notice. What does prior mean? Is that 5 minutes? But we talked about this last meeting. Is that 5 minutes before that meeting? Is it a certain advance notice? And so that was acknowledged that needs to be figured out. But yeah, that's what the comment was referring to.
Any suggestions on what prior should mean?
I think Liz and Elizabeth are thinking on that.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm trying to think. So if I'm thinking through kind of what we need as staff in order to make sure that you have a productive meeting, we need to know so that, let's say if you don't show up, we don't have quorum. That way we can give prior notice, as opposed to like not being able to vote in real time. So, you know, I hate to speak for Dory, but I'm like, can it be a day? 24 hours?
I think it needs to be a week because we tell the community that we'll give out notice of the meeting within the week. And if we don't have enough people within that week and we cancel the meeting, we need to tell the public. Oh, okay. I don't know then.
I totally hear what you're saying, Tia, and I think that like a day, like on a personal level, seems appropriate. But as far as the committee goes, I can understand why the public would want a week's notice. Elizabeth, which one do you think should take precedent? I'm curious what you think on that, or should take priority.
I'd like to hear from more members. I mean, this is really, right now we're not really implementing this. It's encouraged, and I just want to say it's also encouraged, right? It's not mandatory, and there's always going to be things that come up. So let's hear from you all.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kip.
Yeah, I mean, if it's gonna be a planned miss, sooner the better would be awesome, but I know at least one time I had a stomach bug and it was about 30 minutes before the meeting. I'm like, I am not gonna be able to make it, right? So there'd be no way I'd be able to meet that ahead of time. So I think there are two thoughts on this. I think it should be flexible to accommodate emergencies and illness and everything else. And also, again, if we are getting better at filling all the seats and people are agreeing to these processes, not having quorum should be less of an issue going forward, one would hope.
Yeah. Go ahead, Sarah.
I was just going to put a little Kip just said, like the sudden stomach bug, just as soon as you know you're going to miss it, tell staff. But if you are planning a vacation, you're going to be out of cell range, tell them as soon as you plan the vacation, or, which would be at least a week in advance by TIA. So I just think, having that flexibility, because you don't know when you're going to get totally sick or your kid's going to get totally sick and need something, or, there's things that happen. We all know that. And so but to help the committee plan, I think that's a good idea. And yeah, Conrad, that is that is the standard for, sick leave or other kinds of absences, that you let them know as soon as you really can. So.
Yeah, go ahead, Carrie.
I'm just going to second the statements made recently to say leaving it at, or to say that it's hard to know a day is going to be necessary and a week or more is ideal. So unless we are suffering for quorum, it's not going to be an issue. And leaving it as it is, or, specifying as soon as possible would be sufficient to cover us most of the time. Even if people canceled last minute, we could still have meeting and not have to cancel the meeting.
I don't want to add anything complicated, but I'm wondering if this is really more around they're encouraged to give prior notice when missing like a planned absence, but I don't want to overcomplicate it.
Go ahead, Leslie.
Yeah, I think keeping it flexible makes sense to me, and then just adding like give prior notice as soon as practicable, like Sarah added in the chat. When missing a meeting, they are required to attend. I think that would be sufficient.
I agree.
Does this suggestion, go ahead, Sarah.
Sorry, I was just wondering how you volunteers feel about required to attend when you are volunteers. I just that's why I kind of put in my little thing, maybe expected to attend. I mean, I think I want to respect that you're not employees. Employees are required to show up for work. You guys are volunteers. So that was my only little question about how you felt about that, because it doesn't matter how I feel about it.
Okay. So if it sounds like some folks feel like required is okay.
I would say required is okay, because we do have attendance requirements where we say that members are required to attend the full committee meetings and meetings that they are members, subcommittee members of. So yeah, there's precedent for that and it's needed to do the work.
That's okay. Yeah, I was gonna ask you, you're okay with that, Tia?
Yes.
Okay.
It's my expectation to be there, but required, it means the same thing to me, but thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So looks like that comment is resolved and resolved. Okay, further down in the same section. All right, so this is being a potential area of revision. And looks like last comment on this one is from Viva and would like to see some steps outlined of action to be taken in response to missed meeting prior to removals. Has that language been added?
I think we workshopped this last time. Yeah, that can be resolved.
Okay.
So we're good with this language around required to attend.
Yeah, because it
and-
was missing the staff will reach out part.
Yeah.
Was just kind of, it put the onus on, like, if someone's not showing up, like, well, they can reach out. And so it was kind of more of like a process addition that staff will reach out. And so that, I think that comment actually just should have been resolved last time.
Okay.
Yeah, here's a suggestion of the language maybe asked to resign as opposed to will be removed. Is there a preference of how to say that part of the sentence? Go ahead, Conrad.
I'm in favor of leaving the language as it currently stands. I think it's clear, succinct, and is needed for us to continue to. Dang it, Kip. It's good intention, right? We want to be representative. I think we've established that, and we need to pay respect to that representation and body of the entire city by making sure people are here.
Perhaps to address the harshness, which I think a lot of people were responding to like something about potentially will be removed is like something about like removal proceedings will begin or something like that. So it's more like you will be removed, but instead of saying like we're gonna remove you like right away, it's like we're gonna start the process to remove you. So I don't know if that helps folks who, but I do really like yeeted, so.
I agree that removed is the correct term because asked to resign is not the same thing. It's a different thing completely. And but I also support Leslie's softening of the term because it does sound, unusually scary compared to the rest of the bylaws. So having something will start the removal process, something like that.
that better for folks?
Sure.
Can we resolve this comment?
Cat makes a good,
Yeah.
it's good having a lawyer online, I guess, but yeah, Sarah, that would be good to, another lawyer, of course, weigh in on that.
I think the point is that it could be reversed, though. That is what the softening of the language means.
Okay. I'm
And
fine if will start. I don't think it's a huge difference personally.
others. I'm apt to lean on the wisdom of Conrad in this space when there's not strong feelings one way or the other to leave the language as it were.
Oh, thank you, Frida. I pinged Sarah. I was just seeing if there was another way we could say. I mentioned the chat having their term concluded or being excused from further service, or something to that effect. Because for us to be good stewards of the rest of all of the staff of the city involved, to give them the go so that they can start the replacement process. I think that was my leading concern is, making it clear that this person and right, like, it's okay. Things happen. Life happens. Like, this isn't a judgment statement on anyone. It's just that their term of service needs to conclude and we need to get another individual on the committee so the work in this city can move forward. I think that's really the intent.
So terms of service will have their terms of service concluded. Have their term concluded. Yep.
I think that's succinct and fair, and I'm hoping that our Esquire will correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh no, I think that's fine. Some of you talked about having some wiggle room, and I can imagine there might be some extenuating circumstances where the staff wasn't able to reach, but then maybe they just need to take a break from PCCEP and rejoin when they're better able, their life circumstances change. So I think that's fine.
Yeah, and just to tail end that, with the other things we just added language wise, it would make sense that city staff would have already engaged to find out what's going on. So I don't think we need to belabor it too much. And Conrad, I like your kinder, gentler language. So
I also like the language better.
And then all of this, just trying to respect the rest of you and your efforts, because if someone's not showing up, it really diminishes the ability of the people who do show up. So I understand that, and I think that's a strong value that comes through here.
Yeah, that feels resolved. All right.
Ooh.
So this next one, staff will make an effort to outreach and problem solve, which is kind of what we were alluding to. So that feels resolved.
Resolved, yeah.
All right. Kip, you had a comment there.
Let me figure out what I was trying to say 2 weeks ago. I'm bad at math. 2 weeks almost.
Window advance notice.
Window advance notice offered unless it's considered. Yeah, I think what I was trying to address there was that if if there's a understanding that somebody has to leave as much advance notice and, whether it's 30 days or whatever, would be welcome so that, especially if they're in a leadership role, we can plan around it, I think is what my intention here was. I don't know that we need to change the language in it.
Maybe provide as much notice as possible or something
Okay.
like that.
I mean, and I
Like
think
it-
that's, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah, I think it's partially city staff would need to have enough space as well, and then to communicate out to the rest of the committee. So yeah, as much notice as possible, a minimum of 30 days is requested, or 60 days, or whatever we think is a reasonable amount of time. Like with Odelia getting accepted to school, she gave a heads up.
So is there a time frame that folks want to add to this?
I think 30 is reasonable.
I feel like we've kept other things vague, so it would be odd to have something specific here. So I think where we have said as, added, practicable or stuff like that, I think just saying as much notice as possible suffices.
Saw some nods in agreement with that. Yep, okay.
Yeah, I like practicable. You can't say it, but I like it.
Okay, potential area of revision. That's very broad. It's on the entire section.
I think this is where we were talking about whether we were going to have two full committee co-chairs or one chair and one vice chair. But I think we resolved that last time.
I'm
This
under the
comment is from-
impression, yeah, that
Yeah.
we resolved that, and we're sticking. We have a good theme. We're sticking with what we got.
Okay. Has discussion been had about this one? Does it have to stay 2 years, pros and cons?
This comment was back from early September, it looks like, and I think we did address it in the meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I remember y'all's discussion about it.
yeah, it was.
So. It's like Dory says, possibility to add, unless no other members are available to fill a seat. Discussion around merits of encouraging other members to step up without clause. Go ahead, Sarah.
I have a really nitpicky question or suggestion. No member may be, you guys elect your co-chairs, your leadership, right? May be elected to serve in the same office or position after having served 2 years, because that once they have served 2 years, they can't be reappointed. But like if you have your elections in September 1 year and then November 2 years later, they will have served for more than 2 years. You don't want to kick them out in September right when they hit the meeting date. I don't know. It just seems like they can serve until the next election is held. But if they've already served 2 years, they can't be selected for that same position. So why don't I put some language in the text? Just see if I can type something out.
Yeah. And Sarah, your video was cutting out a bit. So I think we got the gist of what you said, but it was a little choppy. Okay. So no member may be elected to serve in the same officer position for more than 2 years consecutively. How does that land for folks? And Sarah's adding or suggesting no member may be elected to continue in the same office position after having served 2 consecutive years. Nods, I see nods. Okay. Does this feel resolved for folks? Okay. Excellent. Next comment. This duties. Let's see. Has this one been resolved? Around the facilitator. I know that we discussed that as well before, so wondering if the question around facilitators has been resolved.
In our private meeting, we talked about using facilitators more frequently, and then I think we came to consensus in our public meeting last time that it was kind of at more of empowering the officers to collaborate with facilitators versus making a larger kind of generalization. If others remember correctly, can chime in. That's kind of what I was recalling.
I would concur with that assessment. It's empowering the officers to be able to dynamically use, or sorry, that's the wrong word, to work with the facilitator that best fits their skill set. So that's going to look different for different officers.
Can you scroll down a little bit on a comment? A little bit further. Right there, yeah. So we said that was where we were trying to points 2, 4, and 5. Could be 1 point or all nested under 6. I think that's where we left the conversation at. Where we would be, so I put some proposed language there of how we could move the facilitator roles into section 6 as like subsections. But then regarding this a community member mentioned that like maybe this is too specific for bylaws and it should go in policy. So that's where I remember leaving the conversation, but there was still a little like we liked what it said, but points 2, 4, and 5, I think the recommendation was to move it as a sub bullet points under 6.
Good memory.
I had to I'm like digging. And that would give us that flexibility that you all were talking about, or potentially that flexibility of letting the whoever's leading the meeting work with the facilitator. So
okay.
So I can do the editing of the document. Do we want to leave all of this language in here in the bylaws, or do you want to move it to a separate document? Because I think if we make that decision first, then I can accept all this language and then we can edit the text underneath of it. Is that okay for folks?
Yeah, I think we have to make that decision first. You're right, Liz. Do we want to keep this detail here or elsewhere?
My initial reaction is if we had it elsewhere, and then we could have more time to properly edit it rather than try to quickly edit it through a vote. And the bylaws would still be, meaty.
What would that look like in terms of the elsewhere? Like, kind of, what would it be? Where would it live? Because I've heard that a couple times now. Like, oh, I think like this would be resolved if we start expectations around this or this. And these ones are a little bit more specific, but I kind of, without it just kind of being like, we have to recall back to this meeting when we talked about it or something like that, what would be the formal mechanism for capturing where these would exist? Would it be development of a policy specifically for our committee?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, the conversation I had, or I think Dory mentioned in the meeting, but also talked with her individually, is that it'd be helpful to put some of the more detailed processes in a referential document that don't require substantial framework changes. So I think that makes more sense, and then we're more nimble going forward as we are trying new things. We can adjust as we go along.
That's something we would develop in a full committee then? Is that kind of the idea? Just kind of moving into like, okay, what would be the actual action?
Yeah, I would think along with the other guidelines or requirements that we're putting into place, we would build out a policy document that we all contribute to and then review and vote on, will this be our formal policy document? And leave the bylaws as the framework that we implement our actual week-to-week activities in.
So maybe we could keep a lot of these comments, kind of like almost kind of move them, like not just resolve them and have them go away, but kind of carry them somewhere else and then resolve them.
Yeah, especially on the more complex things, I totally agree. And we should be able to go back and grab things even if we resolve them for this document, but I hope.
Okay, so it sounds like folks are leaning towards going ahead and moving this into a policy document to be later worked on for clarifying how you will operate. Okay.
Okay, so I just took a screenshot of everything. That should save all of the comments and everything too. So do we want to just move on from this before I delete it all?
I'm concerned that the screenshot is like too much text and maybe we just copy and paste this into an empty Word doc right now so that, because otherwise you're gonna have to retype that. So if you just open a empty Word doc and copy that over, that should get us started.
Just doesn't move the comments over. So that's where I might do screenshot again. I don't know if it saved it. Okay.
Maybe you could also just save the file as a new name.
That's a good one. Yeah, let's just do that. It's all pressure, like when everybody's watching me, you know?
No, click there.
There you go. We'll just download a copy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. There we go. Okay. All right, so we're gonna reject this insertion, is that correct? From this document?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. And then I'll just resolve these threads. Okay, that good?
All right. And next, workshop some process to develop this and ensure is the meeting focus.
That doesn't need to be considered for the voting of the bylaws, but that is something that I would like to have happen. It should better improve our process.
So maybe there's some comment added to that comment on it not being necessary for a vote on the bylaws, but add to continued policy work.
Yeah, I think it's just one of the many kind of similar things that we've had this meeting and last, where it's like we're talking about we need to improve these other things outside of this. So
yeah,
I think it can be resolved if we can just note that in some way.
Okay, so what do y'all want me to put just to continue?
Oh, I'm saying that you can just resolve it completely, and then when we're kind of reviewing some of the expectations, I think that that would be kind of carried over with that. Because talking about kind of isn't this the subcommittee kind of expectations? We talked a lot about expectations in terms of members. I know that new document that you did was just for like the co-chairs, but we've had expectations kind of for all kinds of positions, including members. So this would just be kind of adding to that lump of other, we need to do expectation work. And so this would just go with wherever we're keeping track of all those other ideas.
Okay.
And so that comment was related to meetings would focus on receiving public input into the broad project plan for PCCEP. So that's the piece that I think needs to be workshopped.
Okay.
About this language here, are we wanting to accept this addition as well?
I think Jorge had some, is Jorge still here?
Yes.
He had some thoughts specifically on that when we were talking recently.
Jorge, are you able to drop your thoughts on this here before we move forward? Yeah. Does anyone else have other comments or thoughts about this language here? Feels like a no.
I guess without knowing the background of why it was added, I don't have a vote either way.
Yeah.
Maybe can we move on and then come back if Jorge chimes in?
Yeah.
I think the next edit after that we have to reject based on the quorum that we established.
Yeah. And then this next one. Steering committee may be convened at the discretion of both the full committee and subcommittee chairs.
Looks like that's just amended to add the subcommittee chairs into the discussion for the steering committee. I'm not opposed to that. I just, yeah.
No, me neither. I think it says the same thing, basically.
Yeah. And in that follow-up comment is just referring to chairs. It's just chairs and removing the co. Yeah. Okay, this next section, this addition here. Do folks have a context on these? Looks like.
So I think this was cut from here and moved up, and it's part of the section that we're moving out.
Okay. So this has been resolved.
I believe so.
To cut, Leslie, help me remember too. This was what Jorge moved up even further above. And then in the last meeting, we moved it back here. So do you remember where it was in the wrong section and we discussed that his move would actually imply that it would be a city responsibility? And then we all kind of realized, oh, no, we didn't mean to do that. So then we back down.
So he did that a couple of times.
Yeah.
So he did that, he did move that up, but then he also moved the duty section up under the co-chairs.
Okay.
So that was like a slightly different change, but I remember what you're talking about.
If we're so this was in the original though, right? This section. So if we're now having a policy, separate policy that is capturing all the new additions, does this go into the policy or simply because it was moved there? Or do we revert back to the original and keep it as is?
Can we go back to the duty section? Because I think some of this language is still there, like the generic part. What we moved to the policies is more the like details. Oh, scroll down a little bit. That part. It's gonna hard to see without it being like side by side, but it's 3 paragraphs. When starting with officers will be responsible, officers will encourage, and the PCCEP co-chairs. So it's those 3, and then if you scroll back down, I believe that's either exactly or pretty close. Or maybe not.
No, it looks very different.
But yeah, this got moved under duties. The stuff that you're talking about was a different area and it got moved to, and it was like the reporting part, like where it was something about reporting. And it was just one sentence that got moved up.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like the stuff that we had under the facilitator points that were moved to policy doc.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that what Jorge had moved up was this last sentence. Summaries of any meetings with elected officials will be provided to the full body in a timely manner. Because right
Mhm.
now that is under the co-chair responsibility, and the discussion was that was being moved up to the city leader point, but or the city staff, but then it was rejected. So I think,
Mhm.
do you want to keep at least a little bit of duties here under chairs, or do you want that to be in a fully separate document?
Sarah said that the last two sentences of that seemed to be moved up to the selection right above.
Yeah, part of it, right? That's a repeat.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I'm fine with moving it.
Yes, I agreed. I don't know that it really belongs in duties because it's not something they're doing.
So feels like this one has been resolved then.
And then so are we rejecting or accepting the deletion of the duties part? Or
Yeah.
just these two sentences, and then we'll keep this one here.
So so it says co-chairs of PCCEP and subcommittees will be.
Yeah. So this is what was moved up. So do we want to delete that? Sorry, Leslie.
Yes. But that first paragraph, I think, also either exists in the policy document that we moved or in the duty section that we added. Some of that language, at least. So I think, because that entire duty section got moved up because it fit better under the co-chairs duties. So can you copy this this paragraph and then just paste it, and so we can see it kind of side by side?
And then just to clarify, this duties part is, I think, for
Mhm.
full committee or for officers.
Okay.
And then this that we just pasted was from the subcommittees too, just
Yeah, and I think if you open the other thing, because I think what ended up happening is like this is like the full committee, and then there was like a subsection where it was like co-chairs, and then it was subcommittee, like that was broken out. So I think this was fleshed out further. And this is like, you know, they're responsible for setting agendas and meeting members of the public and city staffers, and like
Okay.
that
So
got broken out into like specific points.
okay. So it's so that section underneath duties, underneath the subcommittees function does need to be, is it okay? It is okay to delete that because it has been moved and separated and removed to the appropriate places.
Are there any implications, not to overcomplicate, but just want to make sure if we don't have duties in our bylaws, like, is there any implications of that to not have the duties in our bylaws? Because I get not putting too much of the nuanced kind of expectations, but duties seem a little different. I don't know if not having any would ever be a problem.
Yeah, I think it does. I see the point of leaving some co-chair duties, and the other two are still in the same document. And these two are the only ones that are not in the same document. So leaving these two would be fine with me. But also like highlighting these specific responsibilities in the policy doc too.
Yeah, I'm okay with leaving them here, though, like leaving something. Or like leaving like an outline.
Is this sufficient or does this need to be reworded that's here right now?
Kind of feel like line number 1 makes total sense here, and line number 2 could go into a process document.
Is there an agreement in that? I see some nods. Okay, so let's go ahead and move that last sentence to the process document. There we go. There. Excellent. All right, folks, hold on. We're almost through this document. Keep holding strong. I've been doing great work. Don't lose steam yet. All right, this next comment, Leslie, you wanted to learn more about this suggestion. Did you learn what you needed around this suggestion?
We did not get to it.
Okay.
And I don't know who added it, but I wanted to get a little bit more. Yeah.
Okay. So members can reach out to PCCEP staff or facilitator if there is one for resources for possible mediation between members. PCCEP staff, with assistance of the facilitator, if there is one, can also meet with each member to discuss issues at depth, give warning to members of behavior that cannot continue.
Yeah, and I guess my question around that is like, it's giving the facilitator of responsibility that I'm not sure is like, it's like, it's yeah, like resolving conflict and stuff like that. Is that within the facilitator's scope? Is that outside of the scope? Is that like too heavy of a burden, for lack of a better word, because my brain is mush now.
Well, I'll speak to that as being the facilitator for a couple of years now. As the practice has been, conflict has been managed by staff. And if it makes sense to have a facilitated conversation, then I may be asked, but typically staff manages the conflict that arises with PCCEP members. It has not been within my responsibilities or expectations to manage conflict amongst PCCEP members.
And I'm wondering if this suggestion was made because there's been, not to say like our staff isn't great or something like that, but if someone doesn't feel comfortable going to staff, having an alternate pathway for conflict resolution, which makes sense, but is the facilitator role the right role to go to for that alternate resolution? So yeah, I think that's what I was wanting to understand a little bit more.
Yeah, great question.
I didn't write this, but I think that this came out of the more recent events. And I think it was an effort to problem solve that.
That was kind of my guess as well, but that's why I wanted to have more discussion around it.
Okay. Well, there's a comment in the section asking if folks, well, at least specifically Jorge, whether or not he placed that in there. So as we wait for that response, do we want to see what's next?
Well, I guess, do other folks have thoughts about that? Like, I feel like,
yeah.
Do we need to clarify with Jorge that that was the purpose of the additional language, or do we feel comfortable that that probably was the purpose and discuss it?
Go ahead, Conrad.
Thank you. I'm comfortable with the existing standard of between members being with PCEP staff, since that's how it's been done and understood. I was just hoping he had a quick response if he was able. But I would not move forward with the proposed language at this time.
I agree.
Go ahead, Tia. Tia, if you're speaking, you're on mute.
Sorry, I'm eating right now, and I wouldn't add facilitator either, because I feel like if there was conflict happening, I would want to be able to meet with PCEP staff, and if that isn't helping, then I'd like to meet with someone that's overseeing the PCEP staff. And I feel like a facilitator is more like a consultant and wouldn't be, unless the facilitator is in the middle of the conflict in real time. That makes a lot of sense for the facilitator to jump in and help do some problem solving.
All right. Go ahead, Leslie.
Yeah, I think I'm also of the same mindset that I don't think it's a facilitator's role to like lead conflict resolution, or like be the the go-to for conflict resolution, and it should stay with staff. So I'm good with rejecting this. I'm in favor of rejecting this change. Just didn't know if after discussion my mind would be changed.
And just noting there, that your standing language there said members can reach out to PCEP staff for resources for possible mediation between members. So it does lean to look towards staff, and also if resources are necessary, they can be requested. Okay. Okay. Viva said you had thoughts, and you've seen articles where this requirement is not clear. Go ahead, Viva.
This would be more for, again, I just think it's challenging because these bylaws stemmed out of our private meeting, which was really focused on problem solving and discussion. And so we were reviewing the bylaws as a response to that private meeting, and now we're moving into voting the bylaws. So this is related to something that I would like to discuss. This is not something that is proposing an edit for the bylaws or voting. So again, similarly, if we could note this, and if we could talk about it when I'm hoping at some point we continue to not just focus on the bylaws and our process, but problem solve some of the themes that we have discussed. So I'd like this to be included in that eventual problem solving discussion, but does not need to be discussed here today.
Mm-hmm. Okay. This next one, reconcile with changes, and the 8th section, subsection B.
Yes. What section is that? Okay. I'm wondering if maybe we had some additional changes that we had wanted to that section, but now that comment doesn't make sense.
Could it be because we got rid of the duty section and the section changed?
I think it's because we didn't pursue the co-chairs. So I think this can stay because we still are following the 2 co-chairs model. I think this was related to, should we move from co-chair to, from chair to vice chair, how would this change? Like we would need to just update the language here. But since that didn't happen, it doesn't need to happen. But I think you're right, since we removed that section, it messed up with the numbers.
Okay, next. Almost there. It's getting so close to the bottom. That's it?
Sorry, Kip,
Well,
did
not
you
quite.
have a
There's a
not
couple
quite.
of
Kip, did you have a question on the public policy or the public meetings laws and stuff?
I did, but I removed it because it was
Okay.
resolved through clarification. So
Okay.
yeah.
So,
just one.
Sarah, go ahead. And it looks like we need to decide on keeping this sentence or not. Go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, if you want to do that, I had two things that were earlier in the document. I just wanted a little quick cleanup on if that's appropriate still. So,
okay. We will come back to you then, Sarah. Let's resolve this comment here, or this sentence. So we're keeping this sentence. A vote is required to move recommendations out of the subcommittee to the full PCCEP.
I guess I'm reading that as within the subcommittee has to vote to move it to the full committee. But Jorge added that, so that's what it reads to be. Are all folks in agreement with that interpretation as well?
Yeah, I would absolutely concur with that. And I think this is a good way that we can really thoughtfully hash things out and engage in really good dialogue at the subcommittee level before it goes to the full committee. And I think going back, as we referred back probably an hour ago at this point, about, really taking time, this structurally gives us good time to have, like it's okay to disagree at the subcommittee level and make sure that at least the subcommittee has some form of consensus before it goes to the full committee. So I'm in favor of this change.
Okay. All right, can we scroll up more, see if there's here's a bit more here.
Sarah, did you have input or is your hand still?
Yeah, oh yeah. Sarah, what were your points?
I thought we were at the end of the thing. So if you still have some just you need get through those, and then I'll go back and we can look at whether my questions were resolved.
Okay. So the edit suggestion on this one is to read, officers will be responsible for conducting PCCEP meetings, remaining voting members of PCCEP. A presiding officer will be designated at all times, either before or at the beginning of each meeting. There's some grammar adjustments needed in there, but
Yeah, I think like that I'm fine with that change just because it should be it just kind of makes it clear who's running the meeting.
yeah.
I don't see. That's good clarification.
And should that read, officers will be responsible for conducting PCCEP meetings and the remaining voting members of PCCEP?
So I think like that just means that will remain voting members of PCCEP. So
okay. Will remain. Okay. All right, go ahead, Tia.
Why are we interchanging the word chair and officer? All of a sudden I was like, who's an officer?
Do folks got a response to Tia's?
I believe it was already in there, so we're working with the bylaws as they were already formed, which uses officer to be, in this case, as we've designated, co-chairs of the committee, but it's general. So if we ever change co-chairs or how we do it or every other, then we wouldn't have to go back and edit every single time that's referenced.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification.
No, good question.
Okay. Yeah, scroll down, see if there's more.
Mm.
This one here, this yellow one.
I think we
That's been
accepted it. We
resolved.
just need to, yeah, we just need to needed to unhighlight it.
Okay. All right. These are the ads, so we need to make sure that link works and to add the code of conduct resource link here. Is on behalf of any issue. Facilitator will not act as an advocate on behalf of any issue. This has been resolved, I believe. The youth member conversation, has that been resolved?
Yeah, I think we just need to accept it.
This is one I double checked on the PCCEP plan, and it says, you know, you appoint people to 2-year terms. And I really did hear, I heard both, you know, Jorge's like, you don't know, you know, 1-year commitment is maybe all we can really hope for. You know, you don't know how your life is going to change, etc. So I have some language that might work, and I just wanted to run it by you all. It's in the chat, and Jorge is not hearing, so maybe putting it in the chat. I just wanted to make sure if they wanted to serve another term, that they wouldn't be like, have to go back through the council process, because God knows.
Right.
No, I think that's great, actually.
Yeah, that was the big point of discussion last time. Like, how can we make it so that they don't have to go back through that entire process? So
it needs an apostrophe and appointees if you're just there. Yeah, sorry about that. There we go.
maybe it just goes to youth seats, delete all the way to will be appointed. Yeah.
And I think you can set up the appointment, you know, the resolution to council that kind of accomplishes that, so that, you know, they know as they're voting to confirm the person that they're confirmed for up to 2 years at their option. So I think that's probably the best way to kind of square the PCCEP plan in this.
Okay. Tia?
I know we only have a few minutes left, and I wanted to jump in from my comment before about subcommittees. Under subcommittees, it says that we may divide into subcommittees. It doesn't say we will divide into subcommittees, that we may divide into subcommittees. But I really still feel like we should write out how to enter a subcommittee, because since I entered in 2021, that's never been clear, and I think it's just really ambivalent.
And I'm wondering if that's one of the policy
Yeah,
things because it's more
right.
specific
policy.
processes.
Okay, that would be really helpful.
What
Thank
I'm also hearing though, T, is that for this specific language here, you're saying PCEP will divide its members into subcommittees is what you're offering.
That was well, yes, but that was my understanding is that subcommittees are required, part of PCEP. And it's interesting when I was reading through it that it says may divide.
Mm-hmm. So
And I
you're
thought,
suggesting that maybe the language should reflect the practice.
yes. And then as long as there's in policy, better instruction on how to enter a subcommittee. I didn't know how to do that in 2021. I don't know if that's been improved.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we still got but 30 minutes, Tia. So don't
On my computer,
at
it says 7:58.
It is 7:58, but we're going to 8:30 tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right. This language here that's highlighted, it looks resolved, so just unhighlight it.
That was the other piece that I was, I think it's a little unfair to the mayor to say he should fill it within, vacancies within 30 days because he doesn't, I mean, it's he now, but you know, they don't have the authority to fill them without going to council. So I have some suggested language or possible language for you to consider that more closely reflects the various authorities
Okay.
to actually fill the seats.
Okay. So the suggestion is PCEP asks the mayor's office to appoint members to vacancies within 30 days and to present the appointments to the council for prompt confirmation. Does that land for folks? Okay. Suggestion accepted.
This was the piece that got moved from the duties to up there
Okay.
that we decided to not accept.
Okay. The agendas will be posted for 5 days. Has that been resolved?
Yes.
Okay.
Y'all did it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. Sarah, do you have any other suggestions or comments you had on the document?
Nope, those were my two last little kind of things I didn't want to lose. Just conforming to the other documents.
Okay. So at this time, we're gonna, I'm looking for a motion from a PCEP member to move into the voting process.
Before we do voting, we need to take public comment.
Yeah, so we'll open the voting with the motion, and then we'll move to public comment within that vote, and then we'll vote. So looking for a motion.
I move to approve the bylaws as amended and presented.
All right, is there a second? In this world, an applause.
I second it.
A second. There we go.
That's my second.
All right, so now we're going to open for public comment on the bylaws as they have been amended in this space. If you have a comment from the public, please go ahead and raise your virtual hand so that we may hear your comment. All right. In an effort not to move too hastily, I'll ask again, public comment, is there a public comment around the bylaws that they have been amended? All right, let's go ahead and move to a vote. All those in favor of approving the bylaws as they have been amended, with the understanding that let me get the specific language, any final revisions in language can be completed by staff. But this is what the operational bylaws will be. Go ahead and raise your virtual hand. One, two, three, four. All right. All right. I have 6 who voted. Keep your virtual hands up there. Any
Jorge heard that you're voting?
I don't know if could someone message in the chat that for Jorge that no, we're voting. Thank you, Sarah.
Elizabeth, yeah.
Oh, sorry, Elizabeth. I just saw Sarah stop. Thank you, Elizabeth.
And then I think Gabby was on earlier, but she messaged in the chat that she was losing internet, so she might have dropped off.
Okay. All right.
Someone want to text Jorge? Be great to get his input.
Yeah, because
I sent him a text at 8:05 saying, we are voting now if you can't hear.
okay.
Thank you, Tia.
While we wait for Jorge, could we put up back the officers' duties section on the screen? I have a slight question. I want to make sure that got. Okay.
Did that question get resolved, Leslie?
I think I'm still working on it a little bit. Sorry, I'm working on one screen and I don't like it. I'm just comparing to make sure, because I know that we cleared up a bunch of like the specific language, so I just wanted to make sure that we didn't lose any of the other edits.
You do not need to keep your hands up. I have it noted who all voted in favor.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it looks good to me. Thank you.
Okay. So to answer your question, Kip, right now there's only 6 members online, or there's 6 members who have responded. And so Jorge is still with us, but hasn't responded yet. So Jorge would need to, there we go. So can we send, Jorge just jumped in the chat. Could we? Let me see.
Right. I'm asking if he can raise his hand on text? Because I see it says he's in public testimony right now. Can you, he's, I think, double. Raise your hand if approve. Okay.
There we go.
Oh, he
Okay.
approves.
Unanimous vote. Bylaws have been approved. All right. Tia, did you have something else?
No,
Okay.
I'll lower the hand from the approval.
Okay. All right. Outstanding. All right. Still got a little bit of time here. It is now time to jump into the interim full committee chair elections. At this time, if you are either nominating yourself or nominating someone else, please go ahead and raise your hand. When I call on you, you'll name who you are nominating. Oh, before we do that, the interim term will be from September 25th to February 25th. The interim chair may run again. Time served as interim will not count towards their total service allowance. Just to be clear. Members may raise their hand to nominate themselves or someone. Candidates will respond to one question, 3 minutes max. And if there are less than two candidates, vote may take place in a meeting or select or secret ballot at discretion or greater. Is that greater than or is that less than?
I think it's more than. So if more than two candidates
Yeah.
are there, then we have to do secret ballot.
Yeah. And if it's less than two candidates, yeah, there we go. Okay. Right now, raise your hand if you have nominate yourself or someone else for interim co-chair.
Afrida, do we need to nominate someone if they've already expressed interest?
So long as they raise their hand and yes, so we need to vocalize those who have expressed interest. So either that individual needs to go ahead and raise their hand and say that, or someone needs to nominate that individual. Kip, go ahead.
Yeah, I was nominating myself for co-chair, interim co-chair.
All right, thank you. Viva?
I'm nominating Jorge Sanchez for co-chair.
Any other nominations? Go ahead, Viva.
If I can do two, I nominate Conrad for co-chair.
Yeah, I'll second Conrad. Sorry, dude.
All right. I presume there are no more nominations. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and move to a vote. Liz, do you have? No? Okay. Oh yeah, the candidate question. We'd love to hear from you. So from the candidates here, which I think it might be challenging for Jorge, could someone go ahead and message him to let him know that he's been nominated and he might need to speak?
Can I just, as a point of clarification, the people who are nominated by somebody else, do they have to accept that nomination?
That's an excellent question.
I will verbally accept. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Kip, I assume you accept, Kip.
For Jorge, he did send an email with his kind of candidate statement. I don't know if that could be read by someone in lieu of him speaking. Just wanted to know if that was sent out.
Liz, do you have access to? Okay, so we'll read Jorge's candidate statement. My assumption, since he submitted one, is that he, in fact, is interested. So the question that's going to be asked, why do you wish to serve as co-chair? Please speak to, one, your vision for PCCEP's role as a community body, and two, your approach to leading the team in its work. All right, Kip, could you go ahead and speak to that first?
Yeah, so my vision for PCCEP's role as a community body is, I think, mostly to be more community oriented, which is some of the work I think we need to do to build up to be more effective and bring in more voices. But essentially, I joined originally and nominated myself to be on the subcommittee, policy and reform subcommittee, because I feel our work here is critical to for two pieces: getting to the end of the settlement agreement and having that as a baseline of more equitable and constitutional policing, as well as reducing harm, and then building on that beyond the settlement agreement to what does the future of policing in Portland look like, and being able to expand our input from the community and create better informed recommendations and policies. And I'm pretty passionate about this work.
Is that the conclusion of your statement, Kip?
Oh, of the first part, yeah.
All right. And your approach to leading the work, leading the team in its work?
Yeah, the approach as interim co-chair, and I'm going to read from my statement that I put out in the email, want to work across PCCEP and our city management to have clearer processes on how we all work together effectively and fairly, ensuring all voices are heard, especially as we advocate for the communities we hear from. Really want to bring more transparency to the co-chair work itself for the rest of the committee proactively and for reporting out. I feel there's been a disconnect, some opaqueness to these roles for the rest of us, and I want a model of full transparency and engagement going forward. And finally, I think critically, prioritize engagement with our city council and community organizations to broaden our reach to get community input. This is critical to ensure we're not stuck in our usual suspects mode of attendees, although I appreciate our usual suspects greatly. The Committee and Public Safety Committee yesterday had over 100 written oral testimony submitted. This exemplifies the need for us to have a broader reach for both legitimacy and impact towards our mission. And that's it.
All right. Thank you, Kip. All right. Next, Liz, can you read Jorge's statement?
Yes. All right, I'm getting it pulled up. Okay. I'm sending this. Okay, so below is a bit about myself and my interest. I've lived in Portland my whole life and am now attending PSU to major in political science and minor in criminal justice.
Do you mind if I interrupt you?
Oh yeah. Hey, Jorge.
Hi everyone. Sorry, I have been busy with another meeting, so I'm just this works amazing that you guys are talking about me right when I'm entering. But as Liz was saying, yes, I have Jorge. I'm going to Portland State University, majoring in political science and criminal justice. So in the for those that know me, my expertise area, sort of my interest. I've been in PCEP since June of 2024. So about a year and a half, I want to say. But it's been a very interesting adventure. Because I actually prepared for it for a while.
Okay, so in the second part of that question, Jorge, was what's your approach to leading the team in its work?
Yeah, it's all in the statement. So I'm happy to read the statement out loud. I answered the questions just in case I wasn't able to make it.
Could you please read your statement out loud?
Yes, I can do that. Ooh, I'm like going for it. Yeah, so I'm seeking to serve in the leadership position because I believe we need co-chairs that could lead PCEP to accomplish its agenda and truly build consensus as we've kind of seen with the little hiccups. It's what I've done on many projects and on other advisory bodies. PCEP is it's a community body, which we all know. We want to turn ideas and thoughts of the community into true action policy. We're different from other advisory bodies because of the settlement agreement. We have a direct line with the mayor, police chief, the Bureau of Human Rights, and many other officials. And I really want us to utilize that. And there's a lot that PCEP can accomplish if we really put ourselves out there and really do it. Our different perspectives and views have led us to amazing recommendations. I don't really have to speak on it because it's all been amazing. And we can do so much more based on the list that we've made at the steering committee, but we haven't been able to get to that point, and that's one of the reasons why I want to run, is to really accomplish that agenda and make sure that all of us, including the new members, are really part of the process and not feel left out. I want us
remaining, Jorge.
Awesome. And I want us to make those a reality and start with new leaders who can push things forward. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jorge. And Conrad.
Thank you. And thank you to Kip and Jorge for also being in the mix. I mean, this is a really exciting time, right? We all know the settlement agreement is just the baseline, right? It's just the start. It's just the foundation. And where I think that this body and where this group can go as we grow and expand moving forward is really holistically putting the foundation across the entire public safety service area, right? The opportunities to not just work with PPB, but set the stage in this interim role as new members are coming on so that the body is able to interface and work with Portland Street Response, work with violence prevention, potentially even fire and rescue if and when that makes sense. Setting that stage of where we could go is a really exciting trajectory. And given that this is just a limited duration interim role, I think leading to the second question, that's kind of where my background fits in really well. Working on other advisory boards, committees, foundations is I'm here to just be a steward. I think hopefully you've all seen it. I bring forth ideas. I listen to other people's ideas. I'll take away my ideas when we know things aren't moving forward, because perfect shouldn't be the enemy of good, right? We need to build together. And sometimes that means a little bit from you, a little bit from me, but it's always going to be us. And so when we look at these next couple months, that's what I'm looking forward to, is making this about us, getting us stronger. So as new people come in, we welcome them with open arms and we go further together. Thank you.
Thank you, Conrad. So TS saw your question in the chat of whether or not we can ask questions. Has that been a practice to ask questions at this time? I am keenly aware of our time in the meeting as well.
He answered it.
Okay. Excellent. At this time, we'll move to a vote, Liz. And so, will you explain how the secret voting? I presume we're going to move to the secret vote.
Yeah. So PSEP members, I just sent you all a ballot via your email. You will be able to select two people to be co-chairs. And then we'll take a 10-minute break while you vote. We'll tally those results, and then when we come back, we'll announce who's co-chairs.
Could we shorten that break to 5 minutes?
Yeah, if you guys are good with that.
All right.
Okay.
Go ahead and move to that voting section. And just for community members to know, we still are going to hold open public comment.
And tonight we're just voting on interim chairs, right?
Yes, just interim chairs.
They will go through February 25th.
Yes.
Yeah. I think Dory had mentioned in the chat that, or in an email, that there was some concern, or like there were concerns about people serving in dual roles for the time being. I'm assuming that's been resolved.
I don't think so. I don't think we had a resolution to it, but I mean, in the interim situation, like I just wrote in chat and in the email earlier, if I am elected interim co-chair, we need to fill that role on the Policy and Reform Subcommittee. If I'm not, it's not a problem in the interim step anyway, so.
Go ahead, Jorge.
Yeah, I did talk to Dory about that, and it did state, and I know Sarah said this earlier in the chat, it does say in our bylaws too that you can't serve in two roles either way. And I believe Dory and Elizabeth made that exception, but it was ultimately kind of like a more of a up to us type decision. So if Kip does win, he can't, and and Tia will be solo, which I do believe Tia just said that she could do it herself.
Folks, we're just waiting for one more person to vote.
If it's me, I didn't hear the directions. Sorry.
Liz, can you share the directions again?
Yeah, so Tia, I sent a ballot to
Oh.
your email, so you'll be
Oh.
able to vote there.
Okay, sorry, everyone. Oops, I'm looking at my wrong email. Ah. Okay. I got it.
Right.
Liz, do we have all the votes in? Give me just 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, what's the cat's name?
Conrad, do you have a cat?
What? I want to see the kitty. I can't see it.
Shameless way to garner votes.
I waited till after voting, so that way there was no. No, I do not have a cat. My fiance has a cat, so I am the.
Aw.
I'm not its dad, but I am the dad that stepped up.
Good job.
That really seems like your cat right now, Conrad.
Yeah, that cat put up with being held like that. So
Yeah.
clearly.
Well, while we're waiting on the announcement, just very quickly, I think everyone knows Dory is out for the next couple weeks. So Liz and I will be doing what we can to support the team. So we'll be meeting with whoever the co-chairs are to start helping to plan the next meeting, and then start working with you all on the next meeting that we have with the mayor and what we would like to get done there. So hold tight. Gonna talk to Liz real quick.
Well, if it's any consolation, this isn't as uncomfortable as the last elections when we had a visitor. That was terrible.
Remind me, I don't
You
I
don't
don't know.
want reminded, do you?
No, don't.
Why can't I remember?
I was trying to break the awkward silence, sorry.
Is sexually explicit.
We need more cat videos from where's the live cat videos?
That happened at a FitCog meeting. Those, I don't know what the term is, those meeting bombers or something.
If folks want some exciting news, I move into my dorm tomorrow. I'm still in Portland, don't worry. But yeah, exciting news there. Moving into my dorm, so very excited to clean,
All right.
move everything, and so yeah.
Outstanding. Congratulations on
Thank
that
you.
huge step, moving into your dorms. And
Wish me luck.
all the luck, and all your rooming joys to come. We have the results, and your next interim co-chairs will be Conrad and Jorge.
Right on.
So
Congrats to everyone for doing their part. Yeah. So.
right on. So we are now going to move to open public comment. So at this time, there we go. We'll move to open public comment. You may comment on any of the work that has been done today or any work that PCCEP is doing currently. Go ahead, Rochelle Silver.
Hi, last week at the meeting, it was mentioned that PCCEP had received a response from PPB on their recommendation about exculpatory evidence, but you didn't have enough time to talk about it last week. And it was mentioned that you would be talking about it tonight. However, at the beginning of the meeting tonight, it was again mentioned that you received it and it's in the website, on the website. Are you planning to talk about it? And if not, why not? Thank you.
PCCEP members, is there a response to that? I believe I have an understanding of why that is, but I will lean on PCCEP members to speak to that.
I feel like we talked about it in a meeting, if not the last public meeting, then in the private meeting before that. And maybe we were just pointing out that it was on the website today, and that's why it was included on the agenda.
Yeah, sounds like there's a wondering if whether or not it will be talked on a public forum.
I mean, if once again, if it's something that needs to be discussed, then we could always bring it up in policy and reform or a full committee on the agenda. So yeah, if there's more information that needs to be discussed through it, I felt like the document that they put together was what's the word I'm looking for? Final. But one other thing just to mention, we as a committee, we always have the ability to revisit any directive even out of cycle. So we could always do that.
Yeah, it feels like it's almost a request to read it and review it on the public forum from a community member.
Well,
Okay.
I would appreciate if you would speak about it in public. Also, it appears by your not doing that, that you're accepting their responses, thanks, but no thanks. And is that how you want to deal with your recommendations?
It's a fantastic question. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think specifically for this recommendation, it was a really thorough evaluation line by line. A lot of folks spent a lot of time rereading things, and it's a great call out that maybe we should have a kind of a synopsis of some key takeaways that we were able to based on our recommendation and fantastic public comment. We were able for the Bureau to make some edits that we are in alignment with. And unfortunately, there were some other edits that did not come to pass. And so appreciate that you calling it out.
And I also think on that point, we need to go back to our partners that helped us craft this recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we have been able to have that yet, given all of everything that has happened this whole summer. So now that we have the recommendation, now that we have the bylaw settled and we have the interim co-chairs in place, we're in a good position for us to circle back on that, circle back with our partners, discuss the recommendation, see if there's anything further that we do want to address. But in the meantime, presenting it to the public as the current response, I think is appropriate. I would be in favor of doing that next committee meeting.
It seems like interim co-chairs, you have an agenda item. Yeah.
Early on.
Early on. Go ahead, Barbara.
Hello, thank you. Certainly a lot of work done this evening with y'all. I remember at the meeting before last I was at, I believe it was Devonte. Somebody resigned at least partly because he felt he wasn't being heard, or maybe he didn't fit in somehow. And so I was concerned about that. And and I know you were going to discuss it in private. And I know people have their feelings and all, but I feel like it's an issue, possibly an issue. You know what I mean? It's not just a personal thing with him, but like, is there an issue? And yeah, that's what I would like to know.
Great question. If everyone doesn't mind, I'll tee it up and then please other committee members jump in. Really appreciate you bringing it to light. It inspired a lot of really frank conversation between all the committee members. And I think you saw the fruit of a lot of those conversations with us really looking towards the creation of a policy document and really outlining expectations for the co-chairs and being comfortable with being slightly uncomfortable and having that dialogue so that we're able to disagree in a healthy manner in public spaces and make sure we're representing the city. And unfortunately, you know, it hadn't been laid out the best way, but we're taking active steps, and you saw that with the bylaws, to make sure that we've learned as a group and we're working to improve. And as we get new council appointed members, that they're going to be coming into a space that's ready to receive them and ready to grow with them.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other PCCEP members who want to add to what Conrad shared?
That was perfect.
All right. Any other public comments? All right. Again, not trying to move too hastily and give folks time to come off mute or raise their hand. Another ask for public comments.
Not an ask for public comments, but if we can drop the link in the chat where folks can submit comments after the fact, I think that would be appropriate, especially just having folks grab it and then maybe digest everything that happened and we talked about.
Yeah. Dr. Allen, I saw you come on camera. Did you have a comment or a question that you want to put into the space?
No, I'm not participating in this conversation. My participation was last time when I said that one reason people might not attend was because they were uncomfortable. That particular thing that I said turns out to have been a good thing to say. I don't have to participate tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Allen. All right, let's conclude public comment at this point. All right, so just a reminder of what's coming up next, and the next PCCEP meeting will be the full committee meeting on Wednesday, October 22nd. Because of traveling and folks being out, there will be no subcommittee meetings next month, but there will be the full committee meeting that will take place on October 22nd. Next slide. And again, thank you, Leslie, for the suggestion of putting the public comment form in the chat. You may access public comments there. Please follow and us on the internet, or send an email. And thank you very much. And let's conclude this meeting.
Yeah.